Hello again, friends, and you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru right here wherever you have pulled up to this afternoon, most likely this afternoon. I am your host, the great Brian Last, and with me, the man who will be answering your questions, the leader of the Cults of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette. And here
I am an empty vessel.
Oh, no.
I am an empty vessel ready to be filled with the questions, the interrogations from the Cult of Cornette, ready to be led by you, the host of the program, the great Brian Last. I am at your service. This is a program where I adapt to the listeners and to you, the host, the guide, and you ask the questions that they have sent in. I will answer those questions. I'm completely at the disposal of you, Brian Last, and the audience.
Let's be honest.
I am here waiting to be interrogated, to be asked questions that I will then answer to the best of my ability. I am waiting for you to take the program wherever the listeners may want to take it.
Well, you have made that quite clear.
I would not dream of taking the program in a direction other than which the listeners or you, the host, would want it. So I await your instructions and your commands and your questions and your interrogations and your queries. I await all of those so that we can do this program in the manner that sees fit.
Are you finished?
I would not think.
Oh, come on. Well, we're off to a banging start this week here on the show.
I got nothing.
Clearly, you have nothing. Have you been watching any more wrestling since the big Wednesday Night War?
Believe it or not, I did. Should we even talk about this now? Smackdown on Fox?
Get out of here.
Keep it for... Because I didn't make notes. It was an accidental drive-by watching.
I think we should talk about it here because if we do it on the show this week, it'll end up being a 4-hour show.
Well, that's true because there's so much wrestling now. But no, a Friday evening, I was in the TV room, and of course I was working as normal because it was waking hour. So of course that means I'm working. I'm doing paperwork. I'm filling orders, Cornette's collectibles. I'm planning the Christmas season. I'm negotiating with the various television projects that I'm going to be doing upcoming over the next few months, et cetera, et cetera. And I see that there is Smackdown coming on Fox for the first time in like 5 minutes. I said, well, I got to put this on. Boy, howdy, I think we answered the question of who is going to do the best technical production of a wrestling program this year or maybe century. What a fucking... From a television aspect, that show was brilliant. Did you see the graphics? Did you watch the program?
I didn't watch it. I haven't seen any of it.
The fucking graphics, just the opening graphics that Fox has come up with. This is Major League Big Time Pro Sports now, folks, because whether they're going to present a product that could be taken as a sport is subject to debate. But this is just as good as the NFL, UFC, anything else on Fox Sports. I know television to some extent, the production end of it, and they didn't have some fucking college friend of Greg the office boy doing the fucking graphics on the open on this show, I'll tell you that. And the way it was shot and just the overall production of the program was tremendous.
Is this the first time that WWF has gotten away from the Dick Ebersol influence in terms of production? Because was Kevin Dunn running the production?
Well, I don't know, but it was on Fox, so they spent a lot of money, and they had a lot of good people in charge of it. Kevin Dunn may have been running production, but he wasn't pushing a button on anything. At Kevin Dunn's point in his life now, he's the Coco Do, and all of the guys who know and girls who know what they're doing actually do it. But anyway, a couple of things. About the pro. Number one, if I could see women, and I don't have notes. I didn't take notes because I said, I'm going to watch it like you did the other day. I'm just going to watch it live and not fucking study it, but what's going to attract me? If I could see women's wrestling like that all day long, then I'd watch it all day long. But the problem is you can't see women's wrestling like that all day long. It was, it was Charlotte and It was a tag match, and I don't have notes, but Charlotte and Bayley and Becky Lynch. And no, it wasn't Becky Lynch because she was in the deal with The Rock. By the way, The Rock is still the best worker in the wrestling business. It's a whole other step above, and people wonder why you couldn't follow that. You almost couldn't follow the fucking Rock in the wrestling business. And Rock and Austin at the same time. No wonder we fucking, shit to bed after that. Becky Lynch fucking held up her part of the deal, but the girls tag, goddamn, Charlotte is just tremendous. Bayley was excellent. The other two girls that were in there, and I can't remember their names now because I didn't plan to do this, but goddamn it, but it was a great women's fucking tag match. And it just brought up that, remember when I said about world class in Dallas? The first year, the David Von Erich Memorial, Kerry challenging Flair for the title and actually winning it, they had a match that needed a stadium. There was no indoor building in Dallas that Reunion Arena couldn't hold half the crowd that came to see it, right? They had a match that needed a stadium. Yeah. Every year after that, when they decided they were going to do that every summer, they had a stadium that needed a match. It would be wonderful to have as many women's matches as men's matches, as we talked about on the Experience last week. That's what a lot of these shows seem to be trying to do. If there were as many women that could work like Charlotte and Bayley and the other two girls, look that goddamn thing up. I got to put them over, and I've just completely blanked. Look it up while I'm blathering. But if they could work like that, then yes. But there's not as many top quality girls as there are guys. There just aren't. And so sometimes you have girls matches for the sake of having girls matches rather than having girls matches because those girls need to be on the program. I'm not calling anybody's specific name. It shouldn't be on television. And I'm not just saying in the WWF. I'm saying there's a lot of girl wrestling these days, but there's not a lot of high-level performers like this. Who was in it? Do you know yet?
I believe it was Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair versus Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Okay, that's who it, yes. And I'm sorry, and Becky Lynch had already been out in the promo with The Rock. But anyway, that was a goddamn... It was as good as anything the guys did because they are at a high level. And that Seth Rollins was on the program against Shinsuke Nakamura. If only somebody in 2010 could have been screaming that Tyler Black, a.k.a. Seth Rollins, is going to be the future superstar. He's incredible. He's got all the tools. If only somebody sitting ringside for his match with Davey Richards in Toronto that summer when it was 120 degrees could have said, this is goddamn modern Flair and Steamboat. Especially Tyler Black. I love Davey. His head wasn't there, but, this guy's going to be a fucking superstar. If only somebody could have thrown their body in between Tyler Black and a bullshit TNA contract for just that week that it took his WWE developmental deal to fucking come in. But that person who did all those things is a shitty judge of modern wrestling talent, I've heard.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. You know what you get when you cross an elephant with a rhino? Elephino. But anyway,
stupid.
Seth Rollins was on the card, ladies and gentlemen. And then Brock Lesnar, they built it up all night. Brock Lesnar go wrestle on TV for the first time in 20 years, and he beats Kofi Kingston in 5 seconds. That was perfect. It was perfect. And grinning at the whole time. And then here comes Cain Velasquez. And they were almost cribbing off my fucking, did they make this deal with Cain Velasquez in the last fucking week and a half since I said I'd love to fucking bring Joe LaDuca in and face Brock Lesnar, somebody the people thought could really fucking kick his ass?
Let me stop you there because it goes even further back than that. And we got a whole bunch of questions regarding a bunch of things about Cain Velasquez and Dave Meltzer talking about it, different things. But let me read you one right here, Jim, from Twitter. And we'll get to the Stephen P. New plug in a little while. But
okay, well, either that or he'll sue us.
Yes. Hashtag corny drive-through from Pramod Kadka. Hi, Jim. Do you think
if that is indeed your real name? All right, go ahead.
Do you think WWE writers listen to your shows for ideas? Your idea for Ricochet's debut was Samoa Joe breaks Rey Mysterio, and he will find someone to fight for him. Last week, Brock Lesnar broke down Rey and his son, and Rey asked Cain Velasquez to fight on his behalf. So, like I said, it goes back even further if we're going with the idea they may be listening to the show.
It could very well be complete and utter coincidence. It could very well be that.
Yes. No one in wrestling listens to this show and modifies their television show based on what we said.
Well, not usually, although in some cases it does appear that way. I do know that there are some WWE personnel who shall remain nameless that listen to the program, but besides that, here's my problem. The only problem I got, and I don't know, has Cain been training lately? Because he did look a bit soft. Now, I haven't said that he never has a physique, but
he's doing lucha, actually, just to let you know. He's been training, and I believe he's actually now working lucha.
Maybe he just, I don't know. Maybe it was just the contrast, but I think somebody else mentioned that too, is that Cain, he's a shoot. And I mean, there's the Tank Abbott, Roy Nelson factor, the tough guys, the Dick Murdochs. They don't always have to look good. But for the wrestling audience, I got the idea that a lot of people there in the building didn't know who it was. And if Cain is not, he's not a worker enough yet. He's been a shooter, but he's not a worker enough yet that he came down with mayhem on his face, that he had that presence, that he had, this is a fucking psychopath that's coming to chew up Brock Lesnar, where the people who didn't know who he was would have been visually impressed by it. Now on TV, it was fucking great because you got the announcement, my God, it's Cain Velasquez. And then people kind of, but it's still, it wasn't like Stone Cold Steve Austin in his prime was coming down, just instantly the visual. It was not a great visual.
No, but people, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they wouldn't know who he was, because I think even a casual person may know the name more than the actual face or who he is.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Instantly, the people in the building weren't sure of what the fuck was going on because this was not a person from the WWE roster. And especially if you were, in the back rows, even if you're looking at the big screen, Cain Velasquez might not be a fucking household face. So there needed to be some element of physical. Can you imagine Batista coming down? If you'd never seen Batista before, but to look like that and with the intensity in the fucking face, especially if he was Leviathan, his better gimmick than his bland old self.
Oh, come on. He became really good.
All right. But anyway, that's what it needed. It needed, and Cain, he's just coming he's got his game face on, but he's not a worker yet. So that was, but
have you heard what Dave Meltzer said about it?
I have not.
Again, going back to the theme of things you said previously, Dave Meltzer said that he thinks they should have you. And again, I haven't listened to it. This is based on what people said to me. So if I get it slightly wrong, please forgive me. But that you should be the mouthpiece for Cain against Heyman and Brock.
Well, are they doing a match in Louisville?
Well, that's the problem right there.
Well, that's the problem. But anyway, what else was on the show? I'm trying to fucking think now. I wasn't prepared to do this, but it was a pretty good fucking. No, of course not. All right. What else was it? You were reading it.
Hold on. Let me go back here. Let's see. Seth Rollins in action. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon ladder match.
Oh, how could I forget? Fucking Shane McMahon is a lunatic. He did. How old is Shane now? He's got to be 50.
I think he's probably, he has got to be at least 10 years older than me. So yeah.
I talked to him at the Hall of Fame deal in 2017. I got to sit down with him and Shane's always been my favorite McMahon. I've said this. He's a nice fucking guy. He was not all the way with the business when he was young, full of piss and vinegar, but I think he's calmed down and got it. But he's a fucking lunatic. Not only did he have, and it was over and they did a good job. It was a stunt show match. and Owens did because that's his specialty. But Shane McMahon did a goddamn elbow drop off the top rope 20 feet away to the goddamn announce table and onto Kevin Steen, and they went through the table together. And Shane has no monetary need whatsoever, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, in this, to do that. And he's got a family and kids. They were very nice, well-behaved kids. As a matter of fact, I met them too. And I don't say that about a lot of fucking children. And he's the gutsiest motherfucker. He has no need to do that. He does it because he's like his dad. He's got the balls of steel. But he's gotten better. Here's the bad thing is Shane got a late start and then only wrestled in the stunt matches because he wanted to prove that he was a fucking athlete and take the bumps. But if he'd have started when he was 22 with his athletic ability and his fucking mental state, he could have been, because he's starting to now to be able to figure out how to work. It looks like it's just, he's had a fucking 20-year career, but he's only had a year's worth of matches.
How old was Vince when he started working?
What was he, 50? 50?
Okay, so
50-ish?
There's the barometer. Who's a better worker at 50, Shane or Vince at 50?
Oh, fuck. Well, Shane is a better athletic performer, and Vince was a better old-style psychological worker.
Yeah.
With facials and the things that, in that respect that you actually define a worker by. But Shane, as a fucking athlete, is anyway. And so, Shane.
Hey, now that you saw this match, how does, and forgive me for using the term garbage wrestling, but how does a garbage match on a WWE show compare to an AEW one? Because you have been so vocal about those. So when you see a match like this, that's a bit of a train wreck. How does it compare to one of those? But
see, that's the thing. It's still not a garbage match. There were within the perimeter of, they had a ladder match. The same rules.
Okay, I didn't see it. Forgive me then.
It was a ladder match. It was the same rules as fucking Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, the same rules that they came up with in Calgary. There was no thumbtacks. There's no fucking fluorescent light tubes. There's no goddamn stupidity. They legitimately work a match psychologically with the idea that a motherfucker needs to climb the ladder and get the fucking deal, right? And then they take a few crazy bumps. And believe me, they were crazy. And I'm not saying that other people should do this. I'm saying that it's at this point, it's an amazing physical feat and takes a lot of mental determination and guts to do shit like that, whether it's a good thing to do or not. When you are Shane ain't a billionaire, but he's a multi fucking millionaire. He will never have a GoFundMe. His family is well taken care of.
Son of a billionaire.
And say again?
Son of a billionaire.
No, he's got his own shit now. And that's the thing. He's probably doesn't have as much money as fucking Stephanie and Triple H do because they got all the fucking gimmick going there. But anyway, the point is he has no financial need to do this shit. And he does it. And fuck, it's amazing. He's going to hurt himself. I worry about him.
There was an 8-man tag.
Yeah, I didn't care about that. Because it was an 8-man tag, and who gives a fuck? What else they have?
Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan.
Yeah, I skipped through that.
Kofi Kingston versus Brock, you said you saw?
Yeah, that was brilliant, and that was it.
And that was it?
But it flew by. The production was excellent. It's network. So the question of who's going to do the best wrestling program is not NXT or All Elite or even Raw. It's fucking Smackdown on Fox.
What'd you think of the commentary?
As I remember, it was pretty good. Who did it?
That's not listed here. I don't know. I think maybe Michael Cole and someone else.
Yeah, no, it was Michael Cole. Michael Cole and I were on the very first Smackdown, the pilot, on UPN in July of 1999. Right before, no, it was April because the show started in July. So in April, and 20 years later, they're on fucking Fox. Michael Cole said to me then, he said, "You're leaving to go to Louisville. What's going to happen if they pick this up to be a series?" I said, "I'd be happy to do it every week if they shoot it in Louisville." Anyway.
Some things never change.
Some things never change. But no, just overall with the highlight of seeing the Rock, Becky Lynch got the rub of working with the Rock. You had a great girls match. You had a fucking you exposed your superstar in the right way with Seth Rollins. You change your title with Brock Lesnar and shoot a major angle with a shoot opponent, which is what he needs if somebody to be taken seriously. And do a smash up and Shane and Owens, and he was right there. No, that's his kind of match. He does those well. To me, it was a big show, and they didn't do anything stupid. There was no clowns. The other guys, just that I may not have particularly cared about the matches because I'm not up on everybody, and it was just a fucking match. You could tell it was a match, but it's not like anybody was performing at a shitty level or outlaw or goofy looking. Nobody with his hands in his pockets. Oh, but now I will say this. Guess who was in the front row of All Elite Wrestling's debut show with a poster that said "My Little Dog Pockets" and a picture of a cute little poodle? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have said that he's one of us, but now he has proven it. Stephen P. New, wouldn't you know who had the poster? Stephen P. New, my lawyer, had the poster. And you, too, can say that Stephen P. New is your lawyer, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to newlawoffice.com or dial on your rotary phones 888-692-8084. If you need to navigate the treacherous legal waters of the American justice system, if you have been put upon and need a champion to defend you when you're swimming with those sharks, then get the biggest shark with the baddest bite of all, Stephen P. New. Get even with Stephen. If you need to sue, call Stephen P. New, because New is for you, the iconic interrogator, the Count of Cross-Examination, the Baron of the Barristers, the Lord of the Legal Eagles, the consigliere of the cult of Cornette, and soon to be the man that Grover calls daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen P. New is the man for you, and he has helped countless cult of Cornette followers and members by either representing them or placing them in the right direction or in the hands of people who could help them, because he is a master of the legal system. Ladies and gentlemen, if Stephen P. New had been around, then Richard Nixon would have died in prison.
All right. Well, he was around. He just wasn't practicing law.
Well, no, he wasn't practicing law then, because he was practicing pissing in his pants, because he was a young man. See, he's young and vibrant and full of life now.
Right. But if he had gotten his hands on Nixon, it would have all been over.
It would have all been over.
Well, this show's not over. We got some questions here, Jim, that were sent in various ways. This one was sent in to cornydrive-thru@gmail.com from Adam Lavelle in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Jim clearly doesn't care much for women's wrestling. He seems fine with the superstars of women's division, or hotties like Gail Kim, but he plainly stated... Wait a minute. The way that is phrased, that sounds like that Gail Kim, that I only liked her because of her beauty and not her talent. She was actually, I would say, the best working babyface lady at the time, especially in TNA, but maybe in the business, because of her underdog ability and her different look and her sympathetic selling. So continue. But he plainly stated on his recent podcast that men are the steak and women are the potatoes. In this day and age, I think that's insane. The women are much better overall workers.
Oh, whoa!
They don't go out there and completely rely on flips and dives to get over. There is a ridiculous bias out there amongst wrestling fans that men are just better wrestlers, and that's just completely sad. If you want to see wrestling done right, matches that are actually worked and presented like fights, the women are pretty much your only choice most of the time. Japanese Joshi promotion Stardom.
Oh, here we go.
Is 100% what Ring of Honor used to be back when it was great. I wish both of you guys would give the women a chance. And by the way, what's this both of you guys shit?
Well, Brian, also, can you tell me when Ring of Honor was so great that it resembled Japanese women's wrestling?
To be honest, I don't watch Stardom, so I don't know the levels of work they're at now. So I don't know what's going on here.
It doesn't matter here's the thing. I'm not talking about Japanese women's wrestling. And yes, in the 80s, the All Japan girls, a lot of times looked like they could probably kick the shit out of some of the guys too. Yes, I'm talking about in America, let's say in the United States of America and Canada, this English-speaking North American market, here is the facts and the mathematics of things. The facts and the mathematics of things coming from someone who is engaged in multiple wrestling training programs, wrestling schools, wrestling seminars. There are a lot more guys that want to become wrestlers than there are women. There are a lot more guys who have been professional wrestlers over the last 100 years than have been women. There are a lot more guys currently in the business than there are girls. So naturally, there are going to be more top quality workers that are guys than are girls. Now, at some point in the next 20 or 30 years, maybe that number switches and that head start gets caught up on. But also there's the problem of even the girls that become quality professional wrestlers, some of them are still quality performers, but you can't get lost in the idea that they're competing, which is your ultimate goal, regardless of what these cosplay wrestlers of either sex have to fucking say about it. And yes, what is the Japanese girl's name? Wing? No, that was the girl on South Park. That was the girl on South Park. We're talking about the Riho. She may perform all those moves wonderfully, but you're still looking at a 98-pound Japanese schoolgirl trying to kick some ass. And so anyway, it's not sexist. And then there's the issue with men and women's anatomies being different, and in some cases men's anatomies are more suited toward either fighting or simulated fighting. So you got science against you.
What about bumping?
And bumping, because a woman you can't tell me that a woman can bump like they did in a couple of those NXT matches where I was talking about. It was just fucking guys just bumping, doing shit back and forth with one another. Bump that hard for that long, that often, and have the same length career. It's not going to fucking happen, and it's science. So to me, you should go with making the Charlottes and the Baileys and the Becky Lynches and the Ronda Rouseys, and also in professional sports overall, are there as many world-class female athletes as there are male athletes in sports where both are allowed to participate? Does the female center for the best WNBA team walk onto the best NBA team and compete at an equivalent level? There's all these things too. So basically, find you some fucking stars that have that magic, like some of those names I just mentioned, and fucking smash them over some girls on TV, and then have some main events on pay-per-view, and you've got something. But when you're trying to have the same amount of women's matches just because you have that number of men's matches, you're invariably going to get the law of diminishing returns. And it's going to confuse people. Oh, here's another girls match, rather than, oh, wow, it's Charlotte against Rousey. Because I can buy that.
You know, it was kind of controversial a little while back. I saw some stuff on Twitter where there was a group of fans, I guess, that really wanted New Japan to have a women's division. And it opened up an interesting debate, although some people, it seemed that, it wasn't even a debate. Their feet were in the ground. This is what should be done. But do you think in 2019 that every major promotion should have a female division? Do you think it should be a requirement?
Well, no, of course not. No. because then you invariably end up, until there are supplies to fill all those slots, you invariably end up using some young ladies that may not be able to compete at the same level as their brethren or their sisterin. And then, and then you get some sloppy. You don't, and what about the poor midgets? There's no more midget wrestling at all. What about the poor midgets?
I don't even think you're supposed to say midget anymore.
Well, I've known a bunch of midgets, and they all referred to themselves as midgets, and they were very fine people. I have nothing against them.
I just saw a picture of Sky Low with hair.
Oh, that was back in the 40s.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
But anyway, no. But what about, do they get their due at some point? If what about the midget revolution? They've been taken as sex objects for too long. They need to prove themselves as athletes. No more of these Bridget the Midget porn movies. We need to get serious acting midgets.
No, there was a big rumor that they're going to announce a Tiger Jackson tournament for NXT, where they're going to have the various smaller wrestlers from around the country get together, and we'll see who the best one is.
I think I'm waiting for the Cowboy Lang Cup.
The Cowboy Lang Cup. Well, let me ask you this, because you've mentioned...
Stacy potatoed poor Cowboy Lang one time.
Where?
In a little outlaw show in California, right before she came out this way. She slapped Cowboy Lang right in the ear, and he was like, wow, what a potato. She even then, she was pushing around people smaller than her.
You mentioned some of the women that you're a big fan of and that you see at that level of star. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Tessa Blanchard, you've talked about on the show. Yeah. There's probably a few more that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. Is there anyone you've seen in AEW that has that level yet? I guess Awesome Kong, if she's a regular, maybe at that level. But is there anyone in AEW you've seen that has that level of star appeal?
Well, I don't know. I think they've popped Kong's balloon already in the times that she's been exposed on their shows. She gets a big entrance and then is an afterthought on the way out. But the TV may very well, be able to rehabilitate that. But Britt Baker has everything they're looking for. I've seen her matches. I don't think she's Ronda Rousey, but she seems to be a good worker. She's an attractive young lady. The doctor, Britt Baker, she's a legitimate doctor of dentistry. So she's a good role model. And she's doing color commentary while the 98-pound Japanese schoolgirl is beating their beast. I didn't get that. I'd like to see more of her doing something. But, that's the situation, is that, just try for every company to have a women's division is water. It's giving more girls a break. So all the girls are out there saying, shut up. But, it's same sometimes. That's not a good thing.
Our next question, Jim, was sent in via email to cornydrivethru@gmail.com from Travis Fudge. That's my new favorite name. I think the last one I liked so much was Randy Funk, but this one's from Travis Fudge.
Well, if they could be partners, we'd have the team of Funk and Fudge.
First of all, thank you for my recent Cornette's Collectibles order. Behind the Curtain is a fantastic book. It made a great early 40th birthday gift for myself. I don't normally concern myself with the personal lives of wrestlers because that's quite frankly none of my business. But I recently learned that Adam Cole is in a relationship with Dr. Britt Baker.
Okay, what are you lining these questions up and reading my mind, or what the fuck?
There's no way I could have known you were going to lead me into this. 2 questions about that. 1, what do you think is more likely? Britt Baker being offered a WWE contract and joining Adam in NXT, or Cole getting tired of his WWE success?
Now, wait a minute, but start back over again. I've lost you around the first turn. Hold on.
2 questions. Number 1, what do you think is more likely? Britt Baker being offered a WWE contract and joining Adam Cole in NXT, or Adam Cole getting tired of his WWE success and deciding to slum it in AEW with Pockets and the baby oil jackass, And then question 2, any good stories about a wrestler making a spectacularly bad career choice because of a significant other?
Well, first of all, I don't think Adam Cole will be getting tired of his NXT success anytime soon. So, actually, I think they're probably better off where they are, because the women's wrestling field is less crowded in AEW, and obviously they're going to do something with Britt Baker. So why would Adam Cole want her to come to NXT and start over from scratch? And obviously, while I'm sure they would use Adam Cole, he's eventually going to make, I would think, a whole lot more money for a longer period of time in the WWE, where he's already obviously well thought of as far as going as far as he can go in NXT. So I think they'll just have to, figure out who their road schedules being apart for a while, but it'll probably be best for the both of them. A horrible career decision based on a significant other. Jerry Lawler once resigned commentary in sympathy over the Cats firing, period.
Did it ever come out why they fired her?
Well, I don't think it was a you did A, so I'm going to do B. I think it was a we've had enough of this is a pain in the ass type of thing.
Did she become a bit of a pain in the ass?
Next question.
Okay. Well, that was one example of a significant other causing a bad decision. Any others?
My God. Well, there was probably a few bad decisions in the Steamboat family that one significant other caused the other.
That's what I was about to ask. Yeah.
There was, as a matter of fact, I heard, this is not even a bad decision, but I heard one of the reasons why that the guys when they would go to Japan in the early 80s, apparently would come back with like 20 or 30 grand in cash stuffed in their bag. And these was in the old days, and nobody really checked or anything. And nobody knew about it until Greg Valentine broke up with his wife, and she smartened up the IRS to what was going on. So there was a significant other that had some heat. I mean, it's been down through history. We could go back through the books, and at some point, as a matter of fact, one of the telegrams I just got in the telegram collection that I bought in Charlotte was from a wrestler. He was kind of a journeyman wrestler named Ali Pasha. And Nick Goulas and Roy Welch were at the Maxwell House Hotel. That was where the wrestling office was. This is back in the 50s. And Ali Pasha sends them a telegram. And apparently, this will register. Apparently, Ali Pasha was due to start in the territory, and they were probably expecting him to show up in Nashville to get his booking sheet. So one day, the wrestling office, a telegram comes, and it says it had 5 words: "Wife sick, I stay home." and that may have been like a Tony Atlas wife issue that time, because Tony was going to come into Smoky Mountain in '93. I was bringing him in, and that was who Tammy Fitch was going to manage at first, instead of Brian Lee.
Would Brian Lee have still turned heel, or was he going to stay as a babyface?
Well, who knows? He may have turned heel eventually because he was a better heel, but he wasn't going to turn heel then, because that was my backup plan, because I'd seen Tony, and he looked fucking great. This was 27 years ago, right? He was in good shape. He had just had a little run in WCW. And I was going to have him fly down for the weekends and try to really get sick, because he was an experienced guy. Everybody knew who he was. He looked like a star, and put that little fucking college girl from the north with him. Oh my God. And so the day we're going, I'd sent him a plane ticket and talked to him on the phone. Everything was all set. And then I hadn't heard from him in a couple of days. And I was thinking, well, he said he was going to call when he got in Knoxville so he could get a ride. And so me and Hildebrand swing past the post office on our way to the TV taping. And there's Tony's plane ticket back. He sent it back to me with a note saying, "I'm sorry, Jim, but me and my wife," and I'll never forget this, I still have this note somewhere, "me and my wife have figured out our expenses, and we have determined that I cannot come to Tennessee at this time. Thank you, Tony." What I later found out was that his wife had determined that while he had that little run in WCW, he was often on the road when he wasn't wrestling, staying with some woman in the Midwest. And his wife got the wind of that he was going to be managed by this hot, smoking little blonde college girl down in the hills of Tennessee. And suddenly their expenses prevented him from being able to come down there. So, you never know what may have become different. And that's right before I got to deal with the WWF, where he already was a name. So if Tony had come down there and done good heel work, instead of being, I hate to say this, but instead of being homeless for a few years shortly after that incident, he might have been back in the WWF, but you never know.
When it comes to Bonnie Steamboat, looking back now, knowing what you clearly know about Jim Herd and his negotiations and how he would just pull things off the table and everything else. When you look at the Steamboat, NWA, WCW negotiations, and
it was doomed to failure with Herd and Bonnie. I wasn't in the room, so I'm not gonna, fucking say what was fair and what wasn't. And it was a heel program to me between Jim Herd and Bonnie Steamboat, because I was not pissed at Bonnie Steamboat at that time, although I knew it was a mistake as soon as she and little Ricky came out and the family man and then the ball gowns and everything. I said, so you got the fucking cool nature boy Ric Flair and the fucking suits and the fucking gold and the fucking bling and fucking all the pussy and, out at the Marriott doing the whole Flair thing. And then you have either Bruce Lee by himself, Bruce Lee, a fucking cool fucking Oriental martial artist type of fucking deal, the Dragon, and they're going to tear the house down in the ring. Or you're going to make Ricky Steamboat the family man, and he's going to come out with his wife in a ball gown and Ricky's balls in a fucking purse around her neck, waving, and the kid is waving to the fucking crowd, so you know where Ricky's payoff is going for that kid's college fund instead of the fucking pussy and the fucking drinks at the bar. So automatically the people are on Flair's side. It wasn't that. It was that in 1995, when we got that small station, WHKY in Hickory, 14, and tried to do that Legends reunion event at the Park Center in Charlotte, and had Tim Mr. Wrestling Woods, and of course, and Sandy Scott, and a variety of the names of the past come by, I'd called Steamboat. He said, well, I'd love to come by and see everybody and sign some autographs, and agreed on everything, and blah, blah, blah. And actually did the promos and announced him. And then he called me back. He said, well, I didn't check with Bonnie first. And Bonnie has something else she wants me to do. I'm like, it's fucking on a Saturday night at fucking 7:00 for an hour and a half. Come by. You live here in town, right? Well, and I think Bonnie was just mad because I didn't ask Bonnie, but I didn't want Bonnie to sign any autographs. I wanted Ricky.
You know what? John Arezzi, we recently talked about a lot of this on the show because we're covering the stuff in '89, and he said that he did a lot of business with Ricky. Not a lot, but he did some business with Ricky afterwards, where he would bring Ricky in for autograph signings or whatever, and he always had to bring up Bonnie and the baby, too. Or I shouldn't say baby, Bonnie and little Ricky. Also, whenever he brought Ricky make an appearance at a plumbing store, he had to bring up Bonnie.
Yeah, well, I met Ricky, because she was his manager. Yeah. But I met little Ricky when he was bigger, when he was wrestling, and a very nice young man, and was a talent. And I hate that he didn't go farther. I think he had some injuries or whatever. But I was not a fan of Bonnie. The wrong Bonnie. I was a fan of Bonnie Coffee.
Guy Coffey's wife?
Guy Coffey's wife, Miss Coffee. I was a fan of hers, but not Bonnie Steamboat.
I just got the first issue of the NWA Wrestling Wrap-Up from '89, and it's a full-page Bonnie Steamboat spread, and it's like, newspaper size, so full page is a giant page. It's just her in different gowns, her in different outfits, and then an advertisement to buy Ricky Steamboat merchandise from an address in Charlotte. So even early on, she must have demanded 2 pages in that fucking thing.
And she's wearing a ball gown that costs most of the fans fucking rent for the fucking month, right? And they're gonna be behind the underdog babyface Riggy Steamboat.
Well, let's get another question here, Jim. This one was sent in on Twitter using the hashtag Corny Drive-Thru from Grant Cameron. Jim, apparently someone called to cancel the ambulance service at a New Japan show recently in New York. Have you ever had promoters or outlaw wrestlers try to sabotage any wrestling events you have worked on throughout your illustrious career?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, I mean, of course, go no further than fucking the Ernest T. Bass of Knoxville, Terry Landell, who'd actually go sneak out front of the Knoxville Civic Coliseum at night, in the middle of the night, and take down the Smoky Mountain Wrestling off the fucking, marquee, the fucking stickable letters up there that on the marquee in front of a building. He'd take down the SMW Wrestling on such and such date. He'd try to take it down or come to my house while I was gone and throw flyers out in the backyard. And there's always been, that fucking mud show bullshit where one promotion will call a building and stooge the other promotion on their shady insurance policy, or, oh, did you see what they did at this other place if they had a bad review or incident or whatever. It's as old as the hills, especially the more indie, outlaw, small-time bullshit it gets, the more small-time bullshit it gets. But it happens all the time. But you really can't. I mean, you didn't used to be able to sabotage most shows. There didn't used to be a requirement of, and there isn't really in most places, that there has to be an ambulance there. I heard they had all kinds of, it's the New York Athletic Commission, just like everything else in New York. They're a bigger pain in the ass than any other commission because they think they're a big deal because they're in New York. So it's not that the ambulance has to be in the front. It has to be in the back. It has to be in a certain place. The fucking driver has to be a certain height or whatever. It's easy to do shit up in New York because everybody's crooked and they either want to uphold all these laws or they want a payoff for not doing same. And that's one of the reasons why Sid was so valuable in Ring of Honor in those days, because he knew who to fucking grease around there.
Well, you kind of
because it's all crooked.
It's funny. You made a little comment I heard, and I don't remember the exact quote, when I put together the Omnibus. It was one of the early segments, maybe December 2017, the AEW Omnibus. And you said about New Japan going into New York, will they know what to do? Will they know what palms to grease? Will they know, how to really make that work in New York? And look at what
yeah, well, that's and buildings will hold, and the building, once again, the Hammerstein Ballroom and or the Manhattan Center, as soon as Sinclair Broadcasting bought Ring of Honor from kindly ticket broker Kerry Silken, then automatically, they found a bunch more rules. And the rent's got to double. And, we were ignoring that for Kerry, but actually this is a rule. And all of a sudden we got to pay per ticket that's sold on Ticketmaster, whether we use them or not. And then there's the origination fee, which they didn't care about the internet pay-per-views until, this is a TV company. Well, it's still internet pay-per-view. But we got to charge you $10,000. And that building is owned by the fucking Moonies or some fucking religious cult, the Manhattan Center and the Hammerstein Ballroom. And so then if one time they fucked us in Sinclair, even when they had a contract with Sinclair, because the Manhattan Center, which one is it? The Hammerstein Ballroom's on the ground floor. The Manhattan Center is on the 6th floor, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the Manhattan Center, which seats 22 or 400 people or something, or no, the Hammerstein Ballroom, the big one that they do the MTV awards and music shows and things from, the ballroom holds 2,400. It's downstairs. But then upstairs in that same complex is a big ballroom that seats, as I recall, about 1,200 or 1,300. And that's the one that Ring of Honor was selling out regularly, right? It was good atmosphere. It's where they did Monday Night Raw.
Right. That was where Raw debuted from. Yeah.
The Manhattan Center is that ballroom. So we had the Manhattan Center, Ring of Honor, booked for a Final Battle or a big fucking internet pay-per-view. I think it was Final Battle, as a matter of fact. And had a contract and a hold on the building, or a hold on the date with the building. And then they let us know just right in time to change our date and our advertising that, we could still have it. But you see, there's an award show that's moved in for a week into the Hammerstein Ballroom, and they're going to have the elevator. So you can have the room, but you don't have an elevator to take your goddamn ring up. And you don't have an elevator to take the fucking people up, so they'd all have to walk up the stairs. So they muscled us out of a contracted date because they didn't figure their shit out ahead of time. They do all New York buildings. They're crookeder than Louisiana. At least Louisiana, you could go to one or two people and get everything accomplished as soon as you paid them off. With fucking New York, you got to pay everybody off, and they'll still fuck you if they want to. And the commission's the same way. They've got every kind of rule that they can bring up if they want to do something or not.
Well, Jim, we have a second question that Grant sent in. This is pretty good. This was on Twitter using the hashtag #CornyDriveThru. Can you share any stories from your appearance on Live with Regis and Kathie Lee with Yokozuna?
Oh, God. I actually got paid for that 3 times. Because it aired live, and then they reran it. That was SummerSlam, right? So they reran it that holiday season as a Christmas rerun while they were off, and then they ran it again the following year for some reason, and I would get scale every time, like $611.12 or whatever fucking odd amount it was. It was to plug SummerSlam, and I was kind of ticked, to be quite honest with you, although it was kind of cool to be on Regis and Kathie Lee once. But the thing is, fucking Kathie Lee wasn't even there. Who was it? Who was it that was the co-host?
Was it his wife? Was it Regis's wife?
No, Regis was there, but it was another. Well, anyway, nevertheless, I was kind of ticked because it was the morning of SummerSlam, 93, where Yokozuna was defending against Luger at the Palace at Auburn Hills. And I was ready to go from Charlotte, because you couldn't fly nonstop anywhere from Knoxville. So a lot of times I would drive to Charlotte, where you get a nonstop flight. One less takeoff and landing. I almost never flew out of Knoxville. Charlotte straight to Detroit and do the pay-per-view and the 2 days of TV and then back, and it wasn't going to be real bad. And then they tell me, oh, but you've got Regis and Kathie Lee that morning to promote the pay-per-view in New York. So I had to drive to fucking Charlotte, fly to fucking New York, then fly to goddamn Detroit that same day. Then from the Detroit airport, get in the car and badass to the goddamn Palace of Auburn Hills, which is way north, and have the show that night. So I didn't appreciate the little odd stop in New York, but it was just an appearance to promote SummerSlam without actually doing a hard sell, because they frown on that. They wanted entertainment, like Yoko had a tug of war with the audience, and fucking Regis tried to help and blah blah blah, and we did a little promo and a little patter. I was wearing the neck brace because I just had the match with Bob Armstrong in Knoxville, where we did the money back guarantee, the big blow off at the K-Town Showdown, and he pile drived me twice. I went to the hospital. So it's like 11 days later. I told him, I said, I got to wear the neck brace, because I'd already told him I was wearing it on SummerSlam. And Bruce was like, all right. So I got to plug Smoky Mountain when they said, what are you wearing the neck brace for? I said, well, I was dropped on my head in Knoxville a couple of weeks ago, and I'm looking for revenge. They got that in, but we just did that, and then straight back to the airport and straight to Detroit. So it was what it was. All in all, I'd have rather slept in late that morning, but
Jim Cornette's drive-through.
All right, Jim, we have another question. This was sent in via email to Corny Drive-Thru.
You scared me so bad with that. My asshole puckered 4 different times. It was like wink, 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 wink.
We have another question here. This was sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Jeff. After listening to the drive-thru and the experience for the past few months, I'm surprised that you and Brian haven't mentioned anything about Impact or its direction. Do the two of you see it as irrelevant, or has it fallen so far that I'm the only cult member who pays attention to it?
All of those, I think, when you say. I don't have time. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear me talk about it, except apparently George. No, we don't get that many requests.
It's Jeff.
Is Jeff or George or whatever his name is. Well, that's probably George masquerading as Jeff. Nobody asks us to, really. I don't have time, and I'm not interested. And I get Tessa Blanchard is there, but she's probably the only person I know that's there right now that I care about. I shouldn't say that. There's probably some friend of mine that's slipped in there somehow and will be insulted by that. Who's there? What's going on?
You know what? I got to be honest. I don't know. I have not paid any attention to that company in years. I have no idea.
Well, there you go. I wish I hadn't paid the last week of attention that I did. It would have saved me from going down there and sweating for no reason.
I never hear anything about what's happening. I only hear about what the company's doing. Like, oh, they're buying this, or oh, they may do this, and now they bought, whatever, the remnants of HDNet, or they bought HDNet. What is it? Axis, I guess that's what it is. They bought that, but the wrestling, I never hear anything about it. Nothing. I have no idea what they're doing.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, I don't have another question. I'll be fine. Well, here we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on here. I've clicked on something.
What?
We have an update. Oh. This is the updated lineup because I was looking. See, I was trying to come up with something. Try to flesh that fucking rotten question out. The updated lineup for Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. That's the big show. That's the big show of the year. Bound for Glory. Jeff named it. He themed it. It was going to be TNA's WrestleMania.
I thought that was Slammiversary. That wasn't the big one?
Bound for Glory was always meant to be the big one. Slammiversary is the one they did first, but Bound for Glory, that was going to be the big one. It's at the Odeum in Villa Park, Illinois.
Do you know that building?
I think independent wrestling shows run there. I've never been there. It's the odious Odeum. Oh, anyway, okay. Here's the lineup. Now we'll discover whether or not we need to be reviewing this. There's a Call Your Shot gauntlet match.
The fuck is that?
I don't know, and it doesn't say who's in it.
All right.
The Rascals versus...
I'm sorry. I don't know why that got me.
Are they feeling groovy? Na, 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 feeling groovy. The Rascals taking on it's a three-way. No, wait a minute. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a six-man. The Rascals versus Dr. Wagner Jr., Dr. Wagner Jr.
Ah, he's good.
And Aerostar and TBA.
Ooh, they've been on a lot of shows recently. I've seen them. They must be great.
Well, actually, I think they get more bookings than many others. Many others in TBA always seem to be working. Michael Elgin, we know him, against Naomichi Marufuji.
I would guess that'll probably be a good match. Michael Elgin worked a lot in Japan, so I'm going to guess that they probably have good chemistry, and he works hard. It'll probably be a good match.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Moose versus Ken Shamrock.
Oh, wow.
That'll be interesting for a variety of historical reasons.
It's interesting.
But Moose, a big badass athlete, Ken Shamrock, world's most dangerous man.
Has Ken been working? Is this like
He has not.
Okay.
Apparently, this is his return apparently to wrestling. The Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the North, will take on Rich Swann and Willie Mack. I saw Willie Mack. He wasn't bad at the NWA event versus, and it's a three-way, of course, versus Rob Van Dam and Rhino.
Oh, that came out of nowhere. Wow.
ECW contingent there. I'm a fan of Rhinos. Haven't seen Van Dam in a while. He always stays in shape. Impact Wrestling Champions Knockouts Champion. Impact Wrestling Champion Knockouts Champion is the way this is written. Pardon me. Taya, that's Taya Valkyrie, Johnny Impact, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Hennigan, Johnny Morrison. That's his wife, and she's a fine-looking young lady. Versus Tennille Dashwood.
Oh, okay.
I have not seen Tennille Dashwood. Taya is big and has a great look, and I've seen her work well, but I've only seen her a few times.
I think you have seen Tennille Dashwood. She was Emma in the WWE.
Ah, well, it's not coming to mind.
Okay.
X Division champion Jake Christ versus Tessa Blanchard versus Daga versus two more competitors, TBA, in a ladder match.
Yeah, you see, this is why we don't need to review this.
Okay,
This is why we don't need to watch this.
There you go. All right.
That hit on everything. Intergender, garbage match.
Intergender, garbage matches,
yeah.
X Division, and Impact champion Brian Cage versus Sami Callihan. Well, there you go.
All right.
So thank you. You're welcome for the free publicity, folks. That's probably the most people that's going to hear that lineup right there that I just read it.
I can guarantee you more people will listen to this than watch Axis for that show. Guarantee it.
Well, I would hope, or elsewise we've done something really bad, because we'd have to plummet off a cliff to get down to that level. All right. Anyway, what's next?
Well, let me ask you another question. I don't know if you saw this video, because it may have happened during one of your weekends running around. But this question is an email
sent. What my weekends running around like I'm just frolicking in the park?
No, when you're in Atlanta, you're running back and forth.
In the park, I think it was the 4th of July.
By the way, did you sing a Simon and Garfunkel song before and attach it to the Rascals?
It's Feelin' Groovy was the Little Rascals, wasn't it?
First of all, they weren't the Little Rascals. They were the Young Rascals. And
the Young Rascals.
The Rascals. Feelin' Groovy is Simon and Garfunkel.
Wait a minute.
The 59th Street Bridge song?
Oh, fuck. Are you, well, hold on.
I know this. No, I know this. I actually like both bands.
Well, then what did the Little Rascals do that was groovy?
Good Lovin'. That was their biggest hit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it wasn't the Little Rascals. It was the Rascals, the Young Rascals.
Groovin'.
That's what it was. Groovin', not groovy. Yeah. I just merely had a mouth fart.
All right. Almost as good as when you got Madness's Our House confused with Crosby, Stills, and Nash's Our House a few months back on the show.
Well, I didn't get them confused.
Yes, you totally got them confused. You said it was the one band, and then you sang the other song, and then when I said that you did that, you insisted that you didn't do it.
I didn't think I did it.
Sing Our House and tell me which band sings it.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Right. That's the fucking Madness people, right?
No, see, that's Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Well, what does Madness sound like?
Our house in the middle of our street. That song, 1982, maybe?
Ah.
You were paying attention to contemporary music in 82.
Which one did fucking... Schiavone had the way it came up. Tony Schiavone on his answering machine when he was at home with his lovely wife Lois and their 5 Howl at the Moon kids. You call him and on his machine was Our House. He's a very, very, very fine house. I'm like, what the fuck? It's so. What's the word I'm searching for? Me. Did I ever tell you what fucking Stan Lane did to Tony Schiavone one time?
No.
Tony got this when he was doing a lot and helping in the office and doing the announcing and everything. And he was in Richmond one time. We're doing some TV. And he's got this little pocket recorder, his little cassette recorder that he would do notes to himself, right? And he's over in the corner and he's call Sting under name Borden, Borden, at Holiday Inn, remind Sting about press conference or, phone call or whatever. He's doing stuff like that. So then he leaves the room. So then Stan gets on his deal. And so Tony comes back later on. He don't think anything of it. And what we found out later on, the rest of the story was that he was home in his living room, sitting by the fire with his pipe and slippers with his lovely wife Lois and her 5 Howl at the Moon kids, and he's playing that back so he can transcribe his notes, and all of a sudden his voice comes on right after call Sting under name Borden, Borden, update Sting on press conference, call Stan Lane under name Lane, Lane, suck Stan's dick. Call Bobby Eaton under name Eaton, Eaton, lick Bobby's balls. So that's something. Nobody does good rib shit anymore. I guess it's frowned on in these companies that have human resources fucking departments and all that shit. But You know, we were just talking at the AEW show with somebody. It may have been Brian Hebner. We were talking about ribs, but the old fucking trash can rib. You do it when you know the guy's hotel room, right? He's got an early flight. You get the garbage can, especially if it's one of those tall, thin ones, from your room, and you fill it up as far as you can with water, and you lean it against the guy's door. So when he opens the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, we did that to Bobby Eaton one time at one of these fan fests here a few years ago. And we knew he was getting up to take off early. So me and Stacy left. This was a few years ago at one of the fan fests. Yeah. So me and Stacy leave the fucking bucket of water. And then when we get up to leave, because we're driving, going back home later on, we open the door and there's the Holiday Inn or whatever notepad with a piece of fucking athletic tape is stuck to the door, and it says, "Good rib, Corny, love you," and it's fucking water stained and the ink is run. But one time when Dennis Condrey was in Atlanta in like 79, 80, and he lived at the Falcon's Rest where all the guys live. I've talked about the Falcon's Rest.
Yes.
Reconverted roadside motel. It's right there. It's near the original Chick-fil-A location, the Dwarf House. They're in Hapeville. It's probably still there. $65 a week, and electric is paid. If you get a phone, you have to have it put in. Otherwise, you can use the payphone in the hallway. Furnished, by the way. But anyway, they found a fucking live squirrel and put the live squirrel in a full-size fucking garbage can. So the sides were slick and it couldn't fucking get up and get out of the goddamn deal. And when Dennis opened his door, the fucking garbage can fell in. It took him like 2 or 3 hours to get that fucking squirrel out of the bottom of his closet. Because they do get upset when you fucking put them in cans and then, roust them out with sticks. Nobody does that shit anymore.
I used to love when I used to go to Dennis's stuff in the 90s, and I was a teenager. But at night, me, Mark Carluzzo, and Donnie B would just, roam the hotel hallways looking for trouble. And we used to take a soda machine, move it down the hall, put it in front of one person's door, tie the electrical cord to the other door so no one could get out. I mean, it's so bad. It's a fire hazard. I look back now like, oh, my God. And then, of course, the famous incident where, well, he admitted it on the show. I could say Mark Carluzzo shit in a pizza box. And we put the pizza box in front of Mike Lano's door. Mike Lano was in his hotel room with someone, and we let him know that there was a complimentary pizza delivered, and he got a shit pizza. And then he later on denied it, and then he admitted it, then he said he was in on it. I mean, he's had 10 different stories about it. But I miss hotel hijinks sometimes.
Well, now they all go back to their rooms to play video games, right? Is that the official line?
Well, now it's easier. Now you just hide the remote. You get the controller. You run down the hallway and you make them find the controller, or no more PlayStation. But Jim, let me ask you this next question. This was sent in to cornydrivethru@gmail.com from Patrick Grapes. And I don't know if you saw the video, so if you haven't, please excuse the question. I was wondering if you saw earlier, a couple weeks ago, WWE wrestler Lacey Evans getting into it with a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer in Edmonton.
Yes, I did see this.
Lacey, she's a heel, goes off on this, quote, Dudley Do-Right looking motherfucker about how Canada is nasty and the cop is nasty, etc., etc. I thought it was funny as hell. That is until about a day later when she took to Twitter to explain it was all work. Question: what's the point of staying in character if you're going to just blab all over social media that you're working? And do you think the boys would have been able to keep kayfabe if social media had been around in the territory days? And I think in her case, I could be wrong. I didn't follow it closely. I think there was a little bit of there was a little bit of a backlash that this happened. That,
yes, they apparently, from what I can tell, they bought it. People bought it that it was a shoot and she had to apologize for it, which is the whole idea of doing it, is to buy it as a shoot. She says, well, this fucking idiot fucking cop, he pulls me over for that. Of course I had to get there quickly. I don't know why they did it and then apologized for it. Because she's a heel, right? You don't want to act like her. Parents can use that as a teaching moment. See, she's a heel. She's a bitch. You shouldn't act like her. Be like the baby faces. Why, Bayley would have hugged that policeman and thanked him for caring about her safety. That's what Bayley would have done. But it's just fucking, I don't have any idea. Yes, if there was social media around, the guys could have fucking kept kayfabe back then, because the guys did, even though there was radio, television, newspapers, rats. It's hard to lie to somebody when your dick is in their mouth, but they managed to. So I don't think that suddenly, just because they can get on their goddamn phone in their pocket and fucking say shit instantly, that they would have said any shit differently than they did in public already. It's just that we unfortunately raised a couple of generations that weren't taught what the business really was and what it was supposed to be, and any respect for it. And so they blew, and the promoters as well, and they blew the whole fucking thing. And now, the cause is lost. But no, the guys wouldn't have. I don't see why they would have done anything differently, just because there was a different way of communicating when there were already ways to communicate, and they weren't including in person, and they weren't fucking smartening people up just right and left.
Our next question, Jim, was sent in to cornydrivethru@gmail.com from Leon Taylor. I'm looking for some information.
He was the sponsor for Dick the Bruiser's wrestling program, Leon's Tailoring.
Well, this question from Leon Taylor, I'm looking for some information on Ricky Harris. I'm watching Mid-Atlantic Wrestling from 1981, and this guy shows up as a jobber on every single show, and I've never heard of him.
No, he really doesn't know, does he?
He doesn't know. Hangman Ricky Harris.
It's Black Bart. What's the matter with you, you no good son of a bitch? It's Black Bart. Black Bart is who Ricky Harris became, and went on to have a fine career, including using the trash compactor, that big old leg drop with that big old Texas ass right off the top.
Any Black Bart stories?
Any grasping at straws here today, Brian? Well, I mean, I guess everybody remembers Black Bart. He was in Mid-Atlantic during a fucking boom era. He worked in Texas. He worked in Florida. I think, didn't he spend a little time in Memphis? He may have come through Memphis. His wife, Bonnie, as another Bonnie, his wife, Miss Bonnie, was a wonderful young lady. And they lived right up the hill from me in an apartment complex in Charlotte when I first moved there. And as a matter of fact, it was Black Bart that the time I've told a story, Buddy Landell, me, Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, Black Bart, potentially one other person, possibly even Tommy Young, I'm not sure. We're in a van going from Albany, Georgia to Charlotte, which is about 450 miles. We were going to get in about 6 a.m, and Buddy was being Buddy and keeping everybody up and aggravated by aggravating Black Bart. But then when Buddy wanted to go to sleep, he needed to go to sleep, so Bart wanted retribution and took one of his 25 or 30 little Miller Pony bottles that he had in the back of this van and pissed in one of them and handed it up to me and asked me to pour it on Buddy. To which I replied that I didn't really want Buddy to be mad at me for pouring piss on him. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." So I reached up and poured that bottle of piss on Buddy and handed it back to Bart. And Buddy still was asleep. I don't know why. But then when he woke up and realized he was wet, he looked around and he said, "Jimmy, did you pour water on me?" I said, "No, Buddy. I swear to you, I did not pour water on you." "Bart, I didn't pour any water on you either, Budrow." "What the fuck? I'm all wet." "Well, you must have dropped something." Buddy didn't realize what it was until he got home and all of his dogs jumped up and started humping him. But no, Bart, I saw Bart when I was out in Texas, about 4 or 5 years ago, WrestleMania weekend there, doing the NWA show for young David Fuller. And he was as full of piss and vinegar as ever.
Jim, this next question was sent in to cornydrivethru@gmail.com from Jason Turner. What did Jim think of the New Zealand militia / royal family tag team of Jacko Victory and Rip Morgan with Lord Littlebrook as their manager? I thought they were a decent undercard team. Did the Midnight Express ever wrestle them?
Yes, we did when we were baby faces, as a matter of fact, in that WCW period. But no, I liked both Rip Morgan and Jack Victory. I wasn't the biggest on the fucking gimmick, and I liked Little Brook, actually. Little Brook was a great midget fucking champion who also booked all the midgets. And I know they were supposed to be called midgets because he said, "I'm booking all the midgets, mate." But he was a great guy. He'd been around the business for 30 fucking something years and was smart, knew what the fuck was going on. Jack Victory was a heck of a worker. Threw a nice punch. He, as a matter of fact, helped me move when I left World Class and fucking moved to Atlanta for Crockett. He didn't have a great body, but he was a great worker. He was a great territory guy. He got lost in the shuffle when there was no territories anymore. And Rip Morgan, same thing. He was green because he'd only been working a couple of years, but he would have once again progressed a while if there were places to learn. Right at the same time, all the territories went away. But I liked them as a team and liked them as people. The whole New Zealand militia was just more of Herd's attempt to fucking dress guys up in funny costumes like they did on the WWF TV. And it'll be great to have a midget with them, and type of thing. And Little Brook was taking a fucking check from WCW. He was booking guys at that point. He didn't really want to work anymore. So there you have it.
Well, of course, you could send in your submissions with your questions to cornydrivethru@gmail.com or on Twitter using the hashtag cornydrivethru. Want to remind you, Jim Cornette's Experience debuts each and every Thursday. Actually, that's wrong. It debuts now each and every Friday for the month of October, where we will review the Wednesday Night Wars. Check it out wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. And of course, on YouTube, get full episodes, clips, and omnibus collections of the Jim Cornette Experience and the Drive-Thru. tinyurl.com/official corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It will be the very first thing that pops up. And of course, the archives available on the Arcadian Vanguard video channel. You can follow Jim on Twitter at the Jim Cornette. You can follow me on Twitter at Great Brian Last. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com, or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com. What is the status of the store at this moment?
Well, we're all caught up. Everything ordered by October the October the 4th is in the mail. Everything ordered until today will be in the mail by Wednesday. And new items over the next couple of weeks. I don't want to cause an international panic, but there'll be a new item this weekend we're going to talk about on the Experience, and then a big new item the following weekend is going to make its debut, and it's going to be a fun holiday season at jimcornette.com at Cornette's Collectibles. And we have restocked burger towels, because every year we sell out of burger towels. We have just restocked.
There you go, jimcornette.com for Cornette's Collectibles. But until Friday on the Experience, for Jim Cornette, I'm the Great Brian Last. Tally-ho!
Play that funky music, white boy.